time working on several different projects getting into the year. So all we're going to do is talk about the timing. And I think I asked you this last week, but what one of the subject matter is on SBIR. And what we're going to do is reach out to our clients and ask which ones are interested in going through a training and then actually applying with SBIR. Bill, with his real world experience in SBIR, has given us training in the past of how to do research to find the SBIR that you're interested in or that you think would fit what you do. Why would you choose that? So he goes through that. So without me trying to steal his thunder, that's what he works on that. And then one of the best ones that I've seen people respond to is he's used a spreadsheet to basically what I'd call in training for financials, we call it spread the financials. What he does is he spreads the application and basically taking, if it's 25 pages, 20 pages, or a 5-page or 10-page, depending on what is out there at the moment. But he spreads the pages in the idea of, so what are they looking for, and how do you fill that up? If you're looking at 25 pages, that's a little daunting. Well, let's look at what they're looking for. And then he talks about those, and all of a sudden you've got 6 pages or 7 pages or 18 pages full. And he said, so it's not quite what you think. It's not quite as daunting. So he really demystifies the application. And so what I want to do is find what clients are really serious about doing an application and take them through that training, record the training where we can go back and use it for those same clients or others to go back and watch it, and then be able to take them, after we take them through that, have Bill work with them with the review and editing to where they can fully apply for their application with their SBIR. And anyway, so that's one of the things we're talking about doing. And like I said, I think we asked you last week, I think that is the timing on how often to, how much in a row we want to do the training. I think every week makes the most sense to keep the momentum going. If they skip a week, well, then because we've recorded it, we can post it for them where they can go back and view it and keep up.
Yes, that sounds great, really.
Bill, a question I've got for you, would it make sense to have some homework, if you will, to where whatever you covered that week, to say, here's an exercise I want you to do based on what we covered?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you could do is, if you're covering that, you could cover a topic and then say, okay, take this material, apply it to your circumstance. Like, if you're talking about SBIR searches, then your assignment before we get together again next week is to, if at all possible, go in and start doing these searches that we just talked about based on your technology. Come back with any hits that you find that you think might actually at least have a potential of being a match. Something like that, towards a practical hands-on based on what we've just done. Try it yourself and get your company to that point, and then next week we'll start from that point and we'll take the next step. Okay. Maybe we could map out a series like that
right.
would kind of walk somebody through the process.
So I think by doing that, even people that skip and just come in on the Lunch and Learn, they would be able to have a better understanding of the process, to where that maybe they're not so nervous about seriously considering it.
Yeah.
Well, that's
what I like is that information paper that Bill kind of helped me through the 3-page information paper. I expanded to a 5-page, kind of a white paper, not really a white paper, for my NASA iTech submission. I did send that to Bill to kind of show him what I did. I expanded it. And I'm working on that
Yeah.
5-page one to expand it along with the pitch deck, which is 10 pages for my Air Force Tech Connect submission and a SoftWorks submission. And I'm kind of just working around that information paper. What you put on the information paper, I'm just expanding on it, 3-page to 5-page to 10-page. And all that was great stuff, how to do the information paper, how to do the pitch deck. I can use that same stuff, for, other submissions, besides, SBIR stuff type stuff. So.
Well, a lot of that, David, it really, what it does is it forces you to take all the things that you think you have in your mind and you know all about this product, but then to condense it down and put it into a meaningful flow and to really figure out what the high points are. And then once you have that, yeah, you're right. It transcribes over into other things. Somebody's asking you, I want to know about your product. Well, I may have to tweak it because their customer, this particular potential customer might be different, but in general, you've already picked out what are the most important pieces of your product's ability. And so you don't rabbit trail, you can get right to the point, even with the next client too. So, or with the next potential customer. So yeah, it's a learning process. That's why, even the SBIR, writing an SBIR is the same thing. You may not get the first one you write. Statistically, you probably won't, but you will learn a lot about how to write it. You'll learn a lot about what the needs are, and you'll walk away, even if you didn't get funded, you'll walk away with a much better understanding of your product and how it fits into the scheme of that particular segment of a customer, because you spent time on it, focused on it. So it's beneficial, even if you don't get a lead out of doing a presentation. Sometimes you get a lot out of it from the process.
You should emphasize that it's not just winning an SBIR, it's the process, it's the learning experience.
Mhm.
Like when I first did one in 2020, I didn't know anything, so I kind of learned from that. Didn't have any help. In 2021, we had a little bit of help, and of course the Navy is totally different format. I was all set out to kind of copy the Air Force format. And it was a totally different format, and I had to learn that. So it's just a good, everything is just a good learning experience. You take it from bluff, your 100 words, and just start expanding from there.
Yeah, but honestly, even though you're working with a different format for a different client, a different group, you were probably communicating very similar information, just in a different way. Kind of targeting a little bit different, but yeah, that's what I tell people sometimes. In fact, I just told somebody today they're working on a quad chart for a potential customer, and I was looking at that format and I said, this isn't really all that different than the information they're looking for in Encountering Innovation. So take that information, take what you've done from some of the other work that I know of, at least, that you've done. Just grab that information and put it in block form. Just stick it in to that application, into that quad chart, and then start formatting from there. You already got a pretty good start on where you're going, because they're asking for similar stuff. It's just a different format. So,
and different questions. The Air Force Tech Connect asks a little bit different questions than the AFWorks challenge, and then the SoftWorks is a little bit different. And of course, the spacing is different. It's 1,000 characters here and 15,000 there, or whatever.
yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think a lot of people, at least in my experience, they don't really know their story until they've told it 2 or 3 times. They say it, they say it to somebody and they kind of bobble through it the first time. And then somebody else asks, and after about, it seemed like 2 or 3 or 4 times, some of the information starts making sense. Well, I spent way too much time trying to explain that part. When I said it this way, they got it. Or you hear somebody go, so did you say, and then when they repeat it, you're like, I like the way you said that. And I think that's part of the exercise here is to your point about the information paper. And I wrote that down, David. I think from a training perspective, talking about the quad chart and the information paper as base model for wherever you're going is a very good exercise, because if you've gotten your quad chart and your information paper document where you're comfortable with that information, taking that as your base and moving forward makes life a lot easier. If you need to expand information or contract, I know this morning I was talking with one of our regional directors, and as he talked about stuff, I thought, wow, I really like what I'm like, how come I didn't think of it that way? But it's a different perspective, but you've got to tell your story. I think that's part of what we're saying here is getting people in. I want to get people in on the SBIR as a training model and work through it. Let someone who has done this, not someone who's teaching it. I have never applied for an SBIR. I've read some. I have been a judge for some grant information. I understand the judging much better after doing it, but I've never done the SBIR. Bill has, and it really makes sense to have someone like Bill that can demystify it working on it. Anyway, that's one of the things I want to start with. I think if we can go to sbir.gov and the tools and be able to show people how to look, how to start, and then look at their timing and then walk them through that early part of this year, then we can decide if we want to do a cohort, if you will, a sprint or a marathon, whichever Bill seems to make most sense to call it for SBIR. But to do 2 or 3 of those as a group this year, I like that idea. I think that maybe we can get some people, the old story, misery loves company. If you're in there having to do it and you can talk to someone else, hopefully it's not misery with Bill training and teaching.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
Well, I think when I've watched you do it, talk about, and I really like with what David said, if you take your information paper, that's doable. That you boil it down to 2 pages and you take that information and that's your base to blow up to others. You can probably answer other information in between to make that thing fit, not just pontificate or bloviate. You can probably actually put real information that's necessary, but you feel much more comfortable going from what you know. Anyway, that's basically our topic for today, because what I'd like to do is I'd like to take this video and use this along with a little bit of information as our challenge to our clients to say, if you're willing to do some work, sit in on some training, we want to invite you into our SBIR challenge to look at SBIR again for opportunities for your innovation, and then use that as an outreach and put a group through the training process. I think that's it. Chris, I'd like to call on Chris. Hey, Chris, are you having lunch? It is a lunch and learn.
He might be tied up.
He's like, I got my mouth full. I'm not unmiking. Uh-oh.
Yeah, let me unmute myself. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. How are you doing?
Well, pretty good. It's been a busy month, so I haven't been able to get on the last couple Fridays, but it's nice to be on today, and hoping you guys got some good things in line. Sounds like you got some training lining up, and obviously whatever I can do to help, get the word out, I'm here for you guys. So.
Well, we're working on 2 parts of that: the innovation part with the SBIR, and then working with Rick and Craig, Rick Slater on our part and Craig on your part, we've got our list of advanced manufacturers. We want to start reaching out to them. And he attached each one of the regional project managers to that. So Rick's working on an email, and I told him, I said, I think we need 2 or 3 emails. Rick's written one where it explains what the SBDC can do for them long term. And I said, I think another one needs to say something like, would you like to get more contracts with primes or federal contract with a federal contractor? If so, respond now. Because I'm like, we can tell them all this other stuff, but if they don't know what they're wanting, I'm not sure they're going to read it all. And I'm like, I'd like to try a couple of emails, one very drastic and short, and one longer, and see which works.
That sounds like a good plan. Like I said, I mean, I've got obviously manufacturers in my region that I could certainly continue to do the reach out to and follow up on. And I know I have interest, but and I think a lot of it is just staying on them and making sure that they stay engaged with this process and don't forget about it.
Well, this year it's going to be quicker with it hitting in June. And I got a little bit of an update this morning. It sounds like Senator Moran's office, we don't have a definite yet, but it sounds very positive that he's definitely interested in what we're doing and trying to see if he can make it fit to where he can be at the conference this year. And by doing that, we're going to try to do an outreach through his office to the primes that he has worked with in the past in the Kansas area. We get that, I think we'll get some strong interest from the primes. Then all of a sudden, the 600 that we're working with, I think knowing that they've got several primes to have potential for, then the training and all that we do ahead of that can pay off for them. Hopefully, a much better chance of that happening.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's basically it. This week was short because we really, Vicki has worked up all of our training from the past. We're going to put some of that in a kind of like a disc jockey. We're going to put some of that up for training and then do outreach for those, and then have a live Q&A portion to go with it. But try to get some of these in place now, especially with this outreach. We're going with that email. We're going to ask clients if they'd like to do an Ask Me Anything. We've done that with the primes to where they can come in and say, what's your question? Where you feel like, okay, the first outreach involves me getting to a place where I can ask folks and hear other companies, other advanced manufacturers ask questions to see if I want to take the time to do this. It's not having something just because it's at no cost doesn't mean it's free to them, because they got to take their time to get involved. And hopefully we can prove to them that it'll be worth it.
Yep.
Anybody else have any comments or questions? That's basically it, Chris. I think you're gonna have some time where you can get back to whatever you're doing and get caught up. You probably have Friday reports you got to get finished on, right?
Well, I try to get a lot of things done throughout the week, and by the time Friday rolls around, I try to not have too much to do on Fridays. I try to get it done earlier than later in the week, but
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I've been battling the weather just like you have. I've been sick for about 2 weeks, and the same stuff everybody else has got. But so I feel for you. I know what you're going through. Everybody's got this stuff, but yeah, it just takes a while to get over it. It just lingers and lingers. But yeah. But I hope you get to feeling better soon, and all of you hopefully stay well.
I'm feeling good. I don't have the energy lag that I had. I just basically get up in the morning, as we was talking about it, and it's like everything's moving, and I clear my throat, cough for a while, and then if I keep the hot water, I have switched. Bill would be proud of me. I start with a glass of or a cup of hot water with lemon juice as my first cup. I am now two-handed. I'm a two-fisted drinker, so I bring that with me with my coffee. As soon as that's gone, then I follow with the coffee. So I do like my coffee. But at least I'm doing that, and hopefully I'll quit sounding gravelly. I feel like I talk like this all day long, you know?
Well, Chris, if you've seen other things with other places that you feel like are working as far as promoting SBIR or other things, feel free to give us suggestions. We're trying to, we're constantly trying to revisit and say, okay, what sounds good and what really works. And, from our experience as far as being helpful, and those two don't necessarily match. It seems like there's a lot of programs out there that do the same thing over and over again, and it's not really very effective, but they don't know what else to do. I'm thinking of a couple different SBIR programs that we've tracked over the years, and I've been involved in as a businessman as well as with SBDC, and a lot of what's out there isn't really all that helpful after you've sat through about 5 webinars on here. This is what the SBIR program is. You need some substance after that.
Mhm.
And there's just not a lot of it normally, seems like.
That's actually how we got Bill to become part of working with us. Is I was talking about SBIR, and I've said it like I was on Mars. Like, yeah, I've been to Mars. I mean, doesn't it sound right? And then when they said, well, what's the soil like? Hey, I don't know. I've never been there. But you're telling us about Mars? Well, yeah, I've read it here in the Wikipedia, and Bill, having done it, he really demystifies the SBIR in my mind very well. He brings a very practical point of view. He talks about the fatigue and the overwhelming feeling, because that's real.
Oh,
And
yeah.
for us to not think about that or act like, well, that's fluff. No, that's the real. Are you going to punch through or not?
I found it's different for everybody, but I found that I actually cheat and trick myself a little bit, because you got, 20 or 25 page proposal, and I'll split it up and I'll do the easy stuff first. Like, you should be able to write a resume. Okay, I know I've got to have that. Well, let's just do it, and then this and that and a few other things. And by the time you put in some of the required things, it's like, wow, I'm like 4 or 5 pages into a 20-page proposal. Well, yeah, you did all the easy stuff, but you feel like you're a fourth of the way through, and actually something magical happens when you literally just type the outline in to a Word document, and suddenly this theoretical thing called a proposal starts to take form, even though there's nothing in it except just an empty outline. It's more than nothing, and you start to go, oh, okay. You feel like you're making headway, but there's a lot of real issues with sitting down and writing, and you can't just, well, I'll just spend the next 3 days writing for 20 hours a day. It doesn't work.
Well, you're not just reading anymore, you're actually doing something. And something like that, it helps you start putting your thought processes together.
I have found with almost every SBIR that I've written, I call it the Bill curve, because I see it with myself so much. And you're going along and you're just at this high point. It's like, oh man, we're going to do really well on writing this. And then later on, and maybe a day later, maybe an hour later, you realize there's this big hole in what you're describing, and you hit this low point. And you're just like, oh, we should just forget this. But you have to push through the low points. And I've literally hit those low points sometimes, 12 to 14 hours before the solicitation was due, and pushed through, and then went, wait a minute, I think we could do this. And then back we're up on the rise again. But you can't go with your gut feeling, because you'll quit almost every time. You'll hit a point where you say, oh, this isn't going to happen. Let's just forget it. And but just knowing that that's normal, because I've seen it almost every time I've written a proposal. Then when you hit that point, okay, I need to push through this, just like I did the last 5 times. Instead
Maybe
of going,
they do that intentionally, just to see who's really persistent and serious and interested.
Yeah. I like to do things like ask in a workshop, say, how many of you actually written a proposal before? You know, you always have a few had is, has anybody hit that low point that I'm describing right now and either quit or really wanted to quit? I mean, just almost overwhelming that you want to quit. And, you know, people respond when you start interacting like this. Say, what was your experience? What was happening at that point? Or, you know, and it's interesting to get their stories. But once you start running workshops like that, people are listening because it's not a scripted program and you never really know where it's going to go. Even as the person leading it, you know, you don't know what that person's going to say what was going on at that time. Or, you know, was it at 3 a.m. for you and you were trying to push through, or, you know, had you not eaten anything for 12 hours? That can have an effect, you know. And so, you know, kind of getting their analysis. And I learn from every time I do a workshop because you get feedback from people. So anyway, those are the kinds of things that we I say we as an SBDC, our group really likes to do to make things real and, you know, and human, not just you know, not just paperwork and, you know, here's the format. Go at it.
Well, I think it, Bill, from my perspective, we watch people who talk from and I don't mean to be picking on academia, but a very academic point of view without a sense of reality or a touch of reality. I think that's John Tomlin has, one of the things that has made his program at Wichita State works so well is what he called experiential learning. And when you bring the academic part of the training of engineering or whatever it is they're doing, and you pull that in with real life experience, all of a sudden things start clicking. I was finished my first year out of high school and college with electronics training. And whenever I finished that year, I thought I could go back to Dallas and be an iron worker up on a 5-story building off the edge, pulling grommets out and doing real ironworking work and make good money at it, sweat like a dog. Or should I try to do something in my field? And I looked up and one of my local lab partners says, Texas Power and Light is looking for for electrical students for their engineering. And I thought, I had no idea what we do. And I went down there, got hired on as a terminal engineering student, like in front of a computer. It became a 13-year career, but it was so much fun. I remember going home going, I'm actually doing something and I'm not sweating. And what I've learned, I'm using. It was a cool feeling. So yeah, I think that's a big part of this is these people feel like you're talking to them from a perspective that they get, not just academic, you know. Anyway, I'm excited about it.
Well, we're looking forward to planning through this year. So